Have you ever watched a cooking show like Hell's Kitchen and said, I wonder if I can serve an entire demon-infested castle with a dish with a rich saucy gravy and seasoned with spices to the point that everyone that gets caught on fire when they get served? No? Just me? Well, okay, I guess I'm just weird. Today, I'll be showing you all if it's possible to beat Castlevania Dawn of Sorrow with just using curry. After seeing how great my last challenge run went with Area of Sorrow, I decided it would make sense to do a Dawn of Sorrow run next. I wanted to do something with Dawn of Sorrow, but I wanted to make it really interesting this time. So I figured I might make some heads turn if I were to storm a hell-infested castle armed with delicious curry. Now that would literally be Hell's Kitchen. After reading some of your comments from that video, I thought it felt refreshing to see that the Castlevania community is still alive and kicking when it comes to some of its games that were made like 20 plus years ago. I learned things about Area of Sorrow that I didn't even know of. Like the luck stat doesn't really matter for gathering souls, and some souls work well with others when you transform, when you have some of them equipped. It feels nice to be part of a community in some way. Anyway, I'll explain what the rules are in this run. My main goal is beating the game using only the Waiter Skeleton Soul as my main source of attack in this game. For those of you who don't know, the Waiter Skeleton Soul is how you're able to use curry as an attack. If you watched my Castlevania Area Sorrow challenge run, the rules are basically the same for the most part. Except that I'm only using the Waiter Skeleton Soul, but I'll still read them out to you. Rule number 1. I can't fight using any weapons or anything physical. No swords, guns, fists, sliding, etc. Only the Waiter Skeleton Soul is allowed. Rule number 2, I can't use any Guardian Souls that will allow me to attack either. However, I will allow the use of Enchanted Souls and Guardian Souls that has nothing to do with attacking. For example, like the Giant Bat Soul or the Flying Armor Soul, and so on. Rule number 3, I can use items and armor, and if I find any weapons, I will sell them since I can't use them. Rule number 4, I can use my fist to hit candles to get hearts and money, also secret walls as well. And rule number 5, if I accidentally hit an enemy using a physical attack or other attack, I will reload my last save. In rule number 6, I will use New Game Plus to start the run and play on hard mode. One last thing I do want to add to this. Since I'm doing a New Game Plus, I will be selling all of my items, weapons, and armor before I start a fresh run, along with releasing all of my current souls except for a level 1 Waiter Skeleton Soul that I have. So in retrospect, I will be starting with just casual clothes and a level 1 Waiter Skeleton Soul. Now that I read all the important stuff out of the way, let's hop into this run. To get underway for my run, I boot up one of my save files from personally playing the game and decided to sell all of my things. Yep, even the Clive Soulish as well. God damn it, I feel like I keep torturing myself by doing this again. I get rid of all of my souls except for a level 1 Waiter Skeleton Soul and start a New Game Plus. We are greeted with a brief synopsis of Area of Sorrow, and it's been 1 year since Soma learned that he is the reincarnation of Dracula. As the time of this video is being uploaded, I find it really crazy that Area of Sorrow will happen in like 10 years. Let that sink in for a bit. You know what just crossed my mind when typing out this script? According to the Castlevania wiki, Soma is 19 years old in Dawn of Sorrow. If you do the math, he was born in 2017. This is really interesting because that would make Soma a Gen Alpha kid. Oh god, wait. Does that mean he grew up using brain rot terms? Bro, he's 7 years old as of this video is being posted, probably on TikTok showing off his soul abilities and gaining tons of followers while saying some dumbass term like I refuse to say that nonsense. That's why you just heard a text-to-speech voice just now. Man, what the hell? I couldn't imagine the reincarnation of Dracula having a childhood like this. I'm gonna safely assume that this is all implicated though. I hope to God it is. Anyway, we see Soma and Mina chatting about what happened last year in Area of Sorrow. Then this strange lady named Celia teleports behind them, asking for our names, which is insanely weird. I wouldn't, you know, I would never... Why would you give out your name to somebody who just teleported right behind you using magic? I wouldn't trust that at all. It's kind of weird. I wouldn't be surprised if she works for the IRS, if she can teleport and know our name right off the bat like that. Or maybe she works for Steam support. Maybe Soma's a hacker. She tells us that she wants us dead and she summons monsters for us to fight. Suddenly, Genya appears out of nowhere and throws us a pocket knife to use. use. I immediately put the pocket knife away and pull out the waiter skeleton soul and started to serve some delicious curry right on the streets. I killed all the monsters here, and Celia warns us that she will try to kill us soon and teleports away. Genya tells us that Celia is a part of a growing cult that wants to resurrect the Lord of Darkness by killing Soma so they can create a new Dark Lord. Genya tells Soma to stay out of this, but Soma ignores his advice by finding their base several days later. Hammer shows up behind us and reveals that he gave Soma the coordinates to the base and will find a place to set up shop, while being a huge simp for Yoko while he's at it.
Alright, nice. Hammer is down bad.
Yeah, I guess you could say that. We head in and we fight some monsters a little ways in until I find Yoko and Julius. Yoko explains they got a tip from Genya that Celia's cult is here, and Julius reminds Soma that if the darkness does take him, he will kill us. After some chatter with the three, Julius tells Yoko to back off and tell her to stay here at the entrance for her safety, and decides to jump across the whole entire bridge gap. My man is 56 years old, and he has hops. Yoko then gives us a magic seal for sealing boss monsters in the game and wants us to escort her to a safer location. I head down to the save where the first boss is located and decide to grind some levels on the wargs in the area before going to face the boss. Now that I think about it, I don't think you're supposed to give dogs curry. I think some of the spices are toxic to them. Great, now I feel like an asshole for committing animal abuse for XP. After committing some felonies against a bunch of demonic dogs, I head into the first boss. Flying armor. This guy only has 3 attacks. He swings these 2 swords around while he floats around the room. He throws the swords off the screen just for it to come back at you. Lastly, he charges at you from time to time. Now, I feel like I need to explain something about using specifically the waiter skeleton soul for this run. I'll show you an example using my controller right here. Now, this sounds really silly, but I feel like this is the best way to explain what is potentially an issue. You see, in order to use any of the bullet souls in the game, you need to hold up or D-pad up and then the normal attack button to use your bullet soul. Now, you're probably thinking, why the hell is he explaining this to me? The reason why I feel like I need to say something about this is because when your magic meter reaches 0 or you don't have enough mana to perform a soul attack, it will automatically make Soma just use a normal attack or a physical attack. Now that's just the beginning of something that I need to be careful about. The other problem that I need to look out for is whenever I throw a plate of curry out and use it as an attack, I can only just put 1 plate of curry out on the screen. If I decide to put a plate of curry out and then try to do it again, it will actually just make Soma just do another physical attack. Yeah, it sucks. I just can't spam attack using the curry on the screen. I unfortunately can't pull a Soma from Food Wars and serve 200 servings in just like 2 hours. And before you ask, this run was not inspired by that show. I think it's funny that the main character is also named Soma as well from that show. So with all that explained, this was just a really long fight of me dodging and putting out a single dish of curry every 10 to 15 seconds. This fight felt like it dragged on, but I managed and used the magic seal that Yoko gave us. Yoko talks to us about how there's more complex magic seals that we need to collect and tells us that she won't need to be escorted anymore, and we proceed. We literally find Yoko setting up a little base for herself up ahead in some of the rooms in the area along with Hammer, who is still simping for her. After chatting with Yoko and Hammer, I get rid of all the water under the bridge that Julius gracefully hopped over, and we make our way to the wizardry lab. I did some level grinding on this manticore, or more like force-fed it curry into a corner until it explodes into a bunch of flames about 200 times. After turning the manticore into a chunky core, I ran into Celia and 2 other individuals named Dario and Dimitri. Celia tells us the reason why they want to resurrect the Lord of Darkness is because that there is an imbalance of light and dark in the world because of Soma not becoming the next Dracula. However, she tells both Dario and Dimitri that this setup is actually a test to see who can come and kill me first, and whoever does will become the Dark Lord. Both Dario and Dimitri leave. Celia explains that they were both born in 1999, around the time Dracula had died, and they both believe that they might be the next Dark Lord because of this. Great! Now we're dealing with 2 Grahams from Area of Sorrow. Celia tells us that she will be at the top of the castle waiting for our demise and leaves. After talking to the cult that wants me dead, we head to the next boss. A giant wall of Oh. Balor. Weird, didn't I do this bit in my Area of Sorrow video? Deja vu much? Balor has 2 attacks. He shoots a giant laser out of his eye that is, funny enough, a lot easier to dodge than the version of him in Area of Sorrow, and he does a variety of punch attacks if you get near him. Dodging his punch attacks were a little confusing at first, but then I got the hang of it a little bit into the fight. However, Balor has almost 1000 HP, and I'm only doing 11 HP to him about every 10 seconds. If you do the math, I'll be doing about almost 111 damage to him almost every 2 minutes because of the fact that I can only have one plate of curry out on the screen. You also need to factor in things like dodging his attacks and recovering if I do get hit by him. You see, this fight would take about 3 or 4 minutes to finish, but since I was live streaming this challenge run, I didn't want to bore my audience. However, in the middle of the fight, a neuron activated in my head and I thought of a way to speed this up.
Wait, I wonder... Hold on a minute. This might be crazy. Yeah, actually, hold on. That's the fastest way how to do this. So what the method here is, if the curry is out on the screen and it did damage, I switch it, and the curry's gone. And then I immediately repause the game, and then boom, I could do it immediately.
Yeah, I just thought of a speedrunner tactic in the middle of this fight, and it surprisingly works. I can now kill Balor at a faster pace and not bore everyone along with abusing some of the game mechanics for future use for the curry. I killed Balor, and it took me about 12 minutes. Imagine, if I didn't do this method during this fight would have been around 20 minutes long or longer. After killing Balor, I go torture Chunky Core for some more levels and accidentally punch the skeleton.
God dang it. I gotta...
After that, I head into the Garden of Madness. Running through the garden, I found the Doppelganger ability soul. This soul is so huge. So this ability lets me change my soul layout, which means that I don't have to pause the game every 2 seconds to despawn the curry from the screen, and then switch my soul and re-switch it back to the waiter skeleton soul. This is more of a quality of life ability more than anything. I find the next magic seal and cut through this area to make it to the Dark Chapel. Not much really happens when I get here until I make my way to the next boss. Dimitri. We see Dimitri using a Malukai's ability and killing it with it. Soma confronts Dimitri and is wondering if he's betraying Celia because of him killing one of the many monsters that are out to get me. Dimitri tells him that he is wrong, and he is doing this because it's considered a ritual that he is doing. Soma pretty much unriddles him and understands how Dimitri's powers works, and that it's a copying magic attacks from other monsters. Soma tells Dimitri that he doesn't have any reason to fight him, and asks him if he has any reason to go along with Celia's plans. Strangely, Dimitri says he doesn't have any reason to go with her plan, but he wants to understand the meaning of his own power to get more answers if he's worthy of becoming the next Dark Lord. After the chit chat, we start the fight. I will say, this is the easiest boss fight in the game, and I'll let streamer me explain why.
This guy is actually gonna be like the easiest boss, and you'll know why. Every time you hit him with a soul, he copies your soul. So we're literally having a curry battle right now.
Yep, we are literally having a food fight. I'm not gonna really go into much detail about this fight. All I did was throw a plate of curry on the floor and waited for him to walk into it until he dies. One thing that I thought was unfair about this fight was the fact that he could put more than one plate of curry on the screen than I could, which kinda pissed me off a bit that he could do something like that. But it's fine. I used the Doppelganger ability to put out my curry dish much more faster than when I needed to. After finding out who has the best curry between the two of us, Dimitri meets defeat and says we beat him like he was nothing.
You beat me like I was nothing. I mean, yeah, you literally were nothing. You were giving me curry. We were literally having a food war.
Soma tells him that he won't kill him, but Dimitri gives us a very questionable face and dies right before us. Soma is concerned, but Dimitri's soul flies towards us and we collect it. Soma is even more concerned that we collected a human soul, but interestingly didn't gain any power from it. We then run back to go and save, and then I accidentally punch this great armor.
Gosh darn it. I did technically punch him, so I'm gonna reset, so.
Going into the next couple of rooms, we find another boss fight. Malphus. Malphus has 3 attacks. One attack is them making these dark orbs that will follow you to which side of the room you're on. The next attack is them gathering a bunch of crows and releasing all of them to you on which side of the room you're on. Lastly, they will shoot a bunch of feathers going from both sides of the room. This fight was a little difficult to get around just a bit. I died during this fight trying to get a grip on how to dodge their attacks during my first run-in with them. This fight was a little difficult because of the fact that they were flying most of the time during this fight. which means that gravity is against us during this because I can't make my plate of curry hover in the air, letting it sit on them while taking constant damage. The only other boss that we had to deal with this was the flying armor when we started. However, the flying armor was really easy considering that they only had 250 HP and they only had 2 attacks, so it was really easy to avoid. I jumped in the air and threw some curry at them while they hovered in the air. However, when they were going to do some attacks, they will stay on the ground for a bit, and that was my cue to throw some mouth-watery curry on them while to do the most amount of damage to them. After a bit of a struggle, I managed to kill them and gained the double jump. Once I committed third-degree murder and killed a giant bird, I head back to the Garden of Madness and reach some areas with the double jump ability. I find my way to the next boss shortly after, Dario. We run into the room and Dario greets us. He mentions about Dimitri and Soma tells him that he didn't mean to kill him. However, this is apparently news to Dario and claims that he wanted to kill Dimitri for himself. Soma asks Dario why he wants to become the Dark Lord. Dario shows us that he wants more power and turns the entire room into an oven until the screen turns white.
Hey, you're finally awake.
Anyway, Dario has 3 attacks. He shoots fireballs, summons fire pillars, and creates this fire wave attack. However, he's pretty easy to deal with because he just stands whenever he attacks. Unfortunately, I was careless and I accidentally kicked Dario and had to restart.
Ow. Oh, I made a poor decision. God dang it.
I tried again feeling impatient, but ended up dying from him this time.
Oh no. This is not good. I gotta make sure to... Nope, okay, I died.
I tried again and managed to beat him this time. However, Dario doesn't give up and tries to go Super Saiyan. But Celia walks in and tells him to stop because he's the only candidate left. She teleports Dario, then tells us that she'll be at the top floor and teleports herself out of the room. Once I got out of there, I head into the demon guest house and run into Genya. Genya starts scolding us for not listening to him from the beginning of the game, but Soma asks him that he thought he was taking care of Mina for us under his protection. Genya tells us that his colleagues are protecting her and gives him a reason to watch over Soma. Soma then tells him that he is treating him like as if he's already the Dark Lord, but Genya tells him that he's an extremely dangerous person. Then Genya tells Soma that he's glad that he's here at the castle even though he told him not to be here at the beginning of the game.
But you're here now, so let's use that to our advantage. Okay, you told me not to come, but since I am here, I guess you're just gonna be like, oh, well, since he is here, we'll just use you.
Overprotective adults. Am I right? He gives us a little letter from Mina along with a talisman from her. We read the letter and it's just Mina being worried about us and how we must promise her that I can't forget who we are. Once reading the letter, we describe what all had happened to Genya just now. We tell him that we're also headed to the top floor. After chatting with Genya, I managed to get the Lilith Soul, which will be very useful because it increases my intelligence. The intelligence stat increases your magic and its attack power. So I ended up grinding a lot of their souls along with a waiter skeleton that I just so happens to be in the area as well. Everything was going great until I kicked an enemy by accident.
Oh, god dang it. Oh my god.
I reload and get the next magic seal and head into one of the most problematic bosses that I will encounter for this run, Puppet Master. This questionable looking boss only has 2 attacks. First, he will spawn a lot of floating dolls that scatter everywhere in the room. Next, he will spawn in a mannequin in one of 4 of his hands and drop it into one of the Iron Maidens. For more context about the attack for the Iron Maidens, if one of the mannequins gets dropped in there, I'll be teleported in and take massive damage. However, I can cancel this attack by hitting the mannequin with 3 to 4 plates of curry at a time. That's if I'm fast enough. You see, you have a window of about 4 to 5 seconds to destroy the mannequin in his hand before you're teleported into the Iron Maiden. I have no problem getting rid of the mannequins that are near the floor because of the plate of curry just resting there and being able to damage it enough times. However, the Iron Maidens that are floating on the top left and right corners of the room are a problem because of, well, gravity. Like I said earlier from the fight with Malphus, gravity is against me during this fight. Speaking of gravity, something else that I want to point out here is that the Puppet Master is constantly floating during this fight, which is another problem in itself. I can't simply just toss some curry at him and let the curry auto-attack him. So whenever he's going to use the Iron Maidens above the floor, I just bite the bullet and heal with whatever potions or food that I have. Another thing I want to add about this fight being even more difficult is the dolls are just everywhere. They're very annoying to deal with, which means that I have to throw a plate of curry at them, switch it in and out of my doppelganger ability, try to hit the mannequins in his hands fast enough to avoid crazy damage, and then try to land some blows on him. I find it weird that the one and only boss in this game that just sits in front of the screen most of the time during its fight is difficult to a run like this. I was so unprepared for this fight that I got the Iron Maiden treatment almost instantly from fighting him in one of my attempts.
How much damage am I gonna do to this? Oh, 24? That's not bad. Ow. Okay, actually, this is not good. Well, I'm already dead.
I tried again, but I mistakenly punched him during this attempt. I want to just say that I was level 21 when I first attempted to fight him, but I decided that I was nowhere near ready for him. So I decided to grind a whole 9 levels, stock up on potions and food items, max out my Waiter Skeleton Soul for the Big Plate of Goodness upgrade, and max out my Lilith Soul to be able to do some real damage to the Puppet Master. So I headed back and tried again, and again, and again. Eventually I kill Puppet Master and finally move on. You know, we are about 1/3 of the way through this game, and I think it'd be nice if you left a comment if you would do this challenge run in this game or something similar in another game. I like to engage with my audience any way I can. If you don't leave a comment, well, I will find you, and you will leave a comment on this video. You see, the YouTube algorithm is a fickle friend that is always silently judging me with unseen trends. What the hell? Did I really write that? I didn't know I was dropping bars in this video. That sounded poetic. Anyway, I make my way to the condemned tower and find Julius messing around with some black portal. Julius senses something bad behind the portal, then tells us that he wants to get in contact with Yoko about his finding. We tell Julius of all the events that had happened to us ever since he yeeted himself over the bridge at the beginning of the game. He tells us that he's concerned about Dario and states that he will chase him down next, and leaves. Once leaving Julius, we scale the tower, which was not that bad probably because of all the grinding that I had to do for taking down Puppet Master. Once we reach the top, we run into Gurgoth. This very sus looking monster has several attacks ranging from chomping, releasing smoke, shooting a laser out of its mouth, jumping over to our side of the room and trying to crush us. Believe it or not, Gurgoth honestly was not much of a big deal for me comparing it with the Puppet Master. The only reason is because he doesn't float above the freaking ground. When I did enough damage to him, he will jump up and break the floor below you, and all of the other floor levels below you as well, making you fall down the condemned tower. Eventually, we made it to the bottom and pretty much just started serving curry at him until he died. After killing the weird, sexually suggestive looking boss with legs in the game, I get the tower key and make my way to the cursed clock tower. We run into Celia again, and she tells us that Dario has grown stronger with the demon she fused with him. Then both Genyan and Julius show up to confront Celia with the goofiest looking faces that they have to offer. Celia tells us that the new Lord of Darkness is certain to come into play soon. Then she teleports away. Genyan tells us that he's sensing a surge of magic coming from the other part of the castle while giving us this goofy look. I don't understand, it looks like he's shouting at us when we're right behind him. Genya and Julius both leave, and we make our way further into the clock tower to get the next magic seal. However, I got screwed over by a slime and ran into some spikes and died. I try again, going back to where I was, and make my way to the next boss area. Saphir. Saphir, in my opinion, is really not anything special when it comes to fighting him. He throws knives, and that's mostly about it. Okay, to be fair, he can stop time for a brief moment and lunge at us with his Freddy Krueger hands. But still, there is not much to this fight if I'm being 100% honest here. I killed him with no sweat, and I got his soul that will help me traverse a part of the castle later on. I head back to see Hammer to sell some stuff and buy some potions. He's still simping over Yoko like usual, and we head into the subterranean hell. As soon as we get there, the next boss room is just ahead with Rahab. Rahab only has a few attacks, which are spitting out of the water and dropping shards. He also comes out of the water sometimes and shoots these ice platforms. Other than that, there's not much to him either, kind of like Saphir. Hey, what the hell? Why did this game feel like a walk in the park for me after killing Puppet Master? I mean, yeah, I know I grinded a lot before I killed Puppet Master, but these bosses feel like nothing compared to him. Now, one thing I do want to say is that Rahab is swimming here in this battle. However, that is surprisingly not much of an issue considering that I can see the bubbles below us as he is swimming. I can time a plate of curry to land on him when he passes by me. Also, I just realized my curry must be hella soggy if I'm serving it underwater, but that also tells me that my curry is so good that even fish would eat it. Now, I didn't really stress against this boss like the last two before it. One thing that I find kinda weird, or even stupid, that this boss is not even weak to fire. You see, my curry does fire damage to everything it touches. I would have thought that a water type enemy would be weak to fire. Oh great, now I feel like I'm talking about Pokemon now. It's ironic too because I never played a Pokemon game ever. Anyway, after a bit of a long battle, I killed Rahab and gained the ability to move underwater. I don't know why, but reading this makes me think that Soma is just too buoyant to dive underwater alone, that he needs a soul for him to be able to dive. So I make my way through the subterranean hell and make my way to the Silence Ruins. We run into Julius, who is struggling against Dario. Dario tells us that he isn't at full power yet and he will be waiting for us at the throne chamber at the top floor. He then disappears and Julius warns us that he is powerful. Julius tells us to leave him behind and we proceed forward towards Bat Company. This boss can shapeshift into a bat, a hand, and whatever the hell this is supposed to look like. I think it's a face shooting lasers out of its mouth. This boss does float around the room, which I thought was going to be a problem, but the group of bats slowly move around the room. This boss wasn't that hard. I just stayed pretty low to the ground for the most part and try to make it run into my plate of curry that I would set down and make it run into. We kill it with ease and get the soul to transform into a bat and fly around now to traverse other places in the castle. Once gaining the ability to turn to a bat, I head back to this area on the clock tower and traverse it with ease and make my way into the pinnacle. I didn't do anything while I was here, but I took this way to cut through a specific area that I need to go to the demon guest house. Once I was here, I ran into this blockade. I'm going to need the Killer Clown, Imp, and Axe Armor souls to proceed in this area. I already have the Axe Armor soul thanks to me grinding before the Puppet Master fight, but I had to run and do just a tad bit more grinding for the other two souls. Funny enough, I got asked the most ironic question from my chat during this time of my run of the game.
Do you like spicy food? I actually don't like spicy food, believe it or not. I don't like the feeling of something like burning in my mouth. I don't think I could ever deal with any kind of spicy food. I can probably be okay with mild, but not spicy. I don't like spicy foods.
Yeah, I'm not a fan of spicy food. I just can't take the heat. I prefer salty food. It's okay, my next challenge run will be me running through Castlevania 64 armed with nothing but a pack of ramen noodles and giving Dracula high blood pressure. I'm just kidding. Maybe. Now yes, I'm using other bullet souls for this part, but I'm not using it to attack enemies, so I can safely say that I'm not breaking any rules here. Just past the blockade, there lies Paranoia. I'm not joking, that's what this boss is called in this game. That wasn't some clever transition or whatever to tell you that we were in a boss fight, or simply telling you that I was paranoid for any reason. Paranoia will try to shank you and hop into the mirror in the background and try shooting a laser that will reflect off of these other mirrors in the room. Dodging the laser is a bit tricky to learn sometimes, but the best way to avoid it is by using the Bat Company soul to fly around and dodge it. When Paranoia is out of the mirror and trying to shank me, I throw down my huge plate of curry that I can offer them and make them run into it by hopping over their head. I rinse and repeat this until they die. Huh, easy! I head into the next room and oh my god, I know why this boss is called Paranoia now. The game was lying to me. Anyway, this boss fight is nothing different than the fact that the boss is huge and instead of stabbing you, they will try to Mario Goomba stomp you. Trying to damage them with curry was a little bit more difficult than the first phase, but I managed to pull off the final blow and gain their soul, which makes me go inside mirrors now. I head back to the pinnacle and actually traverse the area until we head into the throne room. In the throne room, we find Dario being impatient for us to arrive. Soma tells that he would never become the Dark Lord, and funny enough gives him a short and sweet version of the famous Spider-Man quote. With a huge forehead comes with great stupidity. I think that's how it goes, right? I mean, you cannot deny that Dario has a big forehead. I would be embarrassed if this was our next Dracula. You know what? I'll create my own quote for the situation. In the realm of intellect, a great forehead may house both brilliance and folly, a testament to the complexity of the human mind. He gets angry at my quote that I made for him and goes on about it's all about survival of the fittest and starts attacking. I'm not going to get into complex details about how this fight goes down. Believe it or not, the way how Dario fights here is exactly how he fights us from before early on in the game when we first met him. Which might explain why Soma keeps telling him that he can't be the Dark Lord because there's literally Nothing different about him from the last time. He's still the same weakling from before. Since this is the same fight from a while ago, I just did the same strategy from before and let him run into my plate of curry like the moron that he is. I decided to beat him anyway to show that you can get the normal ending. In the normal ending, Soma defeats Dario and he implodes in flames from the abuse of the power that he's been ignoring all this time. I personally like to think we gave him too much spicy curry and it was just too much for him. Genya walks in and tells us a hint that Dario could have been saved if we somehow were able to cut the demon he was tied to. Soma is concerned about Celia, but Genya says that they have units tracking her down as they speak. So the both of them start to leave the castle, but Soma feels something really strange and reminds Genya about Demetri and how he absorbed his soul. Genya tells them that they will investigate it when they reach the church with Yoko, and the screen cuts to black. Yeah, that's the normal ending. Basically the ending where Soma commits a war crime by setting a man on fire. We have a crazy wannabe Baba Yaga bitch running around the woods and trying to resurrect the Dark Lord and stalking Soma. And worst of all, a 37-year-old man living inside of us, rent-free. If anything, this is not the normal ending. This is the worst possible outcome. I think the bad ending is much better than whatever the hell this outcome is, to be honest. But that's okay, I reload the last save and none of this happens, story-wise at least. However, before going into Dario again, I decided to grind on some levels because the actual boss that I have to fight has a resistance to fire. Since the next boss has a resistance to fire, I think getting some levels can somewhat counter some of the damage that I would be missing out on. However, someone in chat decided to share some knowledge about curry in the game that was sorta helpful. You see, the Dead Pirate Soul is an enchanted soul that allows you to do double damage from an enemy from behind. This does sound promising in some cases, so I decided to grind for the soul for a bit. However, this is only promising if the said enemy is always on the ground. So I can see myself using both of these souls together in some cases. Once running around the castle and doing some errands, I head back to the throne room and run into Dario again. I skip his dialogue and use the paranoia soul in the room and we meet a Goonie. You know, the demon's name sounds like a type of pasta. This is the demon that is tied with Dario, and I was really worried going into this fight. A Goonie has 3 attacks. He can go above the screen and crash down into the ground and make flames go across the room. He can do a smackdown motion with his hands and do about 100 damage to me this way. Lastly, he can shoot fireballs that go to my side of the room. I screwed up in this fight and accidentally kicked him trying to dodge his hands. Now, one problem with this fight right off the bat is that he's floating 24/7 off the ground. I can't make him run into a plate of curry and call it GG easy like with Dario. Being able to attack him is not hard, just tedious. This also sucks because this means I can't really try out the Dead Pirate Soul trick with this boss. I didn't really have a problem with the amount of damage I was doing to him thanks to all of the Lilith enchanted souls I ended up grinding from earlier. I think the main problem is dodging sometimes. Sometimes I feel like I'm cornered and I barely have any legroom to dodge incoming flames. This fight would take about 10 minutes for me to beat a Goonie and return back to the real world. We returned to a powerless Dario and wondered what had happened to their power. Soma tells him that he killed the demon that was fused with him and tells him having power doesn't make him strong and he's a complete dimwit. Then Dario screams like a little bitch and runs off. Celia walks into the room and Soma wants to end this chase once and for all. However, Celia tells him that there is more than one way to create a Dark Lord. Soma tells her that there aren't any more candidates left, but she tells him that the game isn't over just yet. Celia tells Soma to come to the center of the castle because she wants to show him something and then teleports away. Once after she leaves, I head back to the throne room and get the last magic seal. As soon as I got the last magic seal, I decided to grind about 10 extra levels because the next boss in the game is Death. Yep, we are already about to see the big old Grim Reaper himself already in this game. However, since I was grinding, I did mess up in some areas that I had to reload.
No! Oh, well, now I gotta go back. Gosh darn it. Gosh darn it. Oh my god.
After about a 2-hour grinding session, I decided to head into the center of the castle so we can meet Celia. Running into the room, we see Celia and Mina, out of all people. Mina is strung up on a funny looking tree and Celia tells Soma to say goodbye to his lover. Soma freaks the flip out and Celia shoots a beam at Mina and killing her. Soma literally is charging up his Super Saiyan powers out of pure hatred. Celia is encouraging Soma to hate her so that all these black orbs manifest around me. Oh, I see what she meant, that the game isn't over. She keeps trying to make Soma even more angry to the point that he loses himself from all the chaos that's built up inside him, so he can become the new Dark Lord. Soma agrees that he will become the next Dark Lord and vows to get revenge for Mina, thus breaking his promise that he made to her earlier. Then Soma blasts Celia with a spell, knocking her incapacitated. Celia asks Soma why she deserves to be killed. Then Soma humbles her by saying that he will start a genocide, but she isn't first in line. After that little confrontation, we see Genya and Julius just standing outside the castle, literally not doing anything. Julius says that Soma has become the new Dark Lord and has no other choice to fulfill his end of the promise that Soma made to him in Area of Sorrow. Genya then drops a hint that we should have worn the talisman that Mina gave us from earlier, and Genya says he would need to unleash his full power. Then the screen cuts to black. Yep, that was the bad ending. This ending is where Soma becomes the Dark Lord, kills Celia for literally being a stupid bitch, and lastly, Julius and Genya take action for what's coming ahead to take care of Soma. This is a much better ending than the normal ending. However, there is still something that is still bothering me. Oh yeah, the fact that we still have a 37-year-old man hiding in our body? Now, I love Julius mode, but it unfortunately holds no significance for this current run, so I reload the save and put the talisman on and head back to the center of the castle. Now things play out pretty similar. Mina still dies. Soma charges up his Super Saiyan power to beat Celia's ass, but Genya comes into the room and tells us that the shocking surprise, the Mina tied to the tree, is a fake. Genya confronts Celia and tells her that her using a doppelganger is not what's gonna be her winning move. All of Soma's chaos energy stops flowing into him, but instead starts flowing into the fake Mina, and is revealed that Mina is actually a dude. Oh wait, it's Dimitri. Still a dude though. It's been revealed that Dimitri has been hiding in Soma ever since we finished him off, and has escaped due to Soma's emotions going crazy since he thought Mina just died in front of him. Interestingly, Celia is also shocked that Dimitri was also alive this whole time. Genya points out that since Dimitri was hiding in Soma, he managed to copy the power of dominance from him as well. Then Dimitri says that he touched our soul and copied our ability. Yeah, FBI, I need you to send all units. We have an unregistered sex offender in the area. Dimitri then goes on how he was fighting us, and that the Dark Lord doesn't technically need to inherit all of Dracula's powers to become a Dark Lord, but instead he wanted the power of dominance to become the true Dark Lord. Genya steps in and says that he won't allow something like this to happen, but Dimitri threatens Genya by saying that he scanned Soma's past lives and knows all of our secrets. Dimitri tells Genya to make a move and Soma will die on the spot. Man, I feel even more violated that he looked into what my other past lives were like. What the hell? Soma stands up and asks Dimitri if becoming the Dark Lord really means this much to him. Dimitri then tells Soma that he wants to know what his power signifies, then tells Celia that he wants to control more monsters, and they both teleport away. Genya thinks that they might have gone to the basement of the tower of the castle. Genya tells us to not do anything rash, but Soma tells him that he feels to be the one to stop Dimitri since he copied his own power. Genya tells Soma that Julius and himself will go in first and walks away. We see Julius fiddling around with the portal like we did earlier when we first got here at the condemned tower. Genya tells him to try and open the portal, but Julius warns him that he won't have any power left to fight if he does this. Genya asks him to do it because it's literally the only way, and Julius opens it up by using Grand Cross and the seal breaks. Genya hops down the hole, and Soma tells Julius that they both have everything under control. We head down the hole and end up in the Mine of Judgment. There's not much to this area other than slime, Slorgraw, and Gabion spawns. I made it to the room where we encounter Death. This version of Death is a lot harder than the one in Area of Sorrow. He has 3 attacks. He will throw his scythe and it will split into a bunch of smaller other scythes that will fly everywhere. Death will summon these clones to do a strike down attack. Lastly, he will start swinging his scythe at us. Dodging the strike down attack and him swinging his scythe is not that hard, but I found a really good way to dodge the attack where the small scythes fly around the room. All I have to do in order to dodge the attack is by simply putting the plate of curry on the floor and hide behind it as if it's a shield. Damn. You know it's hot curry if metal scythes are getting burnt up from it. Once you do enough damage to Death, he will go into another phase and change his attacks. He will send these blue skulls to come at you from sides of the room and do a lot of damage to you if you're just a second off from moving away from them. Death will also summon a bunch of small scythes to roam around the room, along with his main scythe coming at you at like 200 miles per hour. Lastly, he'll do an attack that will gut you if you don't jump on time. Another thing I want to mention is that Death is unfortunately a boss that's always in the air. So we can't have him run into a pile of curry that's just sitting on the floor like some of the other bosses. Death in his first phase is not that hard to deal with. but his second phase with the blue skulls are something else. I feel like I'm playing the genocide run of Undertale whenever I'm dodging these skulls. Like I said, if you're a second late on dodging these skulls, you lose about 250 or 300 HP. That's wild. I did die twice while fighting him, unfortunately. No! Oh no! Oh my god. I ironically ended up using most of my potions during the fight, kinda how I did in my Area of Sorrow video. I managed to kill Death on my third attempt and proceed into the Abyss. Once I reach inside the Abyss, here I find the last ability soul in the game, which is Hippogriff. This soul lets me do a high jump, just like how it worked in Area of Sorrow. Except this time, Soma isn't breaking his back when he hits the ceiling. I like how every time Soma does the high jump compared to like Alucard in Sid from the Night, it looks like he's like destroying his back. I make my way towards the next boss room and we go into the save room. But then I realize I forgot to buy a bunch of potions after fighting Death. Thank goodness that I remembered to stock up on potions because I remember I had to rely on some desperate measures that I had to do in Area of Sorrow after I killed Death in that game. So I head back to Hammer and stock up. We head back to meet with Abaddon. This boss thankfully only has 2 attacks. They hop around and they swing this baton-looking thing that they're holding to summon a bunch of locusts to come down in a certain direction in the room. Now Abaddon is thankfully not floating off the ground like some of the previous bosses that I had to fight, so my strategy was to put a plate of curry down and pay attention to where the locusts were coming from, and it should be an easy win. Well, that's easier said than done. Oh god. Oh no, I gotta restart. I gotta restart. Oh my god, that sucks. I slid into him. Where's my pen? No, no, no. Aww. No! Oh, well, never mind. I thought I could... Yeah, this boss wasn't a joke. I changed up how I was going to dodge Abaddon's attacks by using the Puppet Master Soul. In most cases, it worked pretty well if I got the timing down just right. I eventually kill Abaddon and then died on my way to the final boss room. I used the teleporter to head into the final boss room, and we find Genya down to his knees, confronting Dimitri. Genya tells us that Dimitri just dominated a giant demon and he failed to prevent the summoning ritual from happening. Dimitri tells them that they're both too late for the sacrifice that's about to unfold in front of them. The screen pans to Celia tied to some flesh-looking cross, and Dimitri just erases her from existence. Dimitri goes on about how she just always dreamed seeing the Dark Lord and her usefulness just came to an end for him. Dimitri explains that she was the reason for Genya for failing the summoning ritual and it reversed the flow for his powers. Next we see Dimitri is producing some black fog over him, and Genya explains that his soul can't contain something like the power of dominance at an intense level. Dimitri gets pissed and shoots Genya out of sight. Then Soma tells him that he can't control it and Dimitri loses control and becomes Menace. Soma says that all the demons that were under Dimitri's dominance fused as one and it would be disastrous to let it all out. So Menace has 2 phases. We are currently looking at its first phase. All it does in this phase is shoot a puff of poison at us and shoots these spikes out of the ground. Phase 1 is pretty easy. The only thing that sucks is that we have to attack its heart and it's above the ground. So this means that I have to jump up and throw a plate of curry at it every time. This doesn't really take long, but if you do enough damage to Menace, they will stand up on its legs and go into phase 2. In phase 2, all Menace can do is stomp on you, kick you if you're at the right level, and even punch you as well. Believe it or not, that's all Menace can do. It's ironically more of a threat in its first phase than it is now. However, these floating leech-looking creatures start to spawn and they are the bane of my existence. No! Oh my, they literally tag teamed me. That's how I died. They just float there and follow you. If you touch them, they do a lot of damage to you, and worst of all, they never stop spawning. I feel like these leech-like monsters are the real final boss in the game. The best way to deal with these leeches is by throwing a plate of curry on one of these platforms and trying to lure them to it when they are following me. However, I did struggle a lot during this fight. No! Oh my god, I just... No! Oh my god! Oh my god. Oh my god. Since I was struggling with Menace, I decided to go and grind a couple levels to come back later. I only grinded about 3 extra levels, I stocked up on whatever kind of healing items that were not potions, including things like rotten meat and spoiled milk. What? These are counted as healing items too, you know. Another thing I decided to do during this fight is to grind for things that are considered to be unplayable. The reason is because if you have the ghoul soul, you can eat things that are really nasty but will heal you, which will save me from using up all my potions for this fight. Another thing I realized that I was doing wrong was that I forgot to unequip Mina's talisman before going into this fight. I actually forgot to equip it when I fought Death in Abaddon, which makes me feel like a moron for doing. After realizing that I had that equipped, I switched it out with Satan's Ring for more overall stat buffs. So going into this fight, once again coming back prepared, my strategy was to go to one side of the room to have the weird leech monsters chase me, and run up and attack Menace when I had a lot of legroom to deal with when they're not around me. Now in order to kill Menace, you have to attack its face and knee area. Attacking his face isn't hard, I just have to throw a plate of curry either right into his face or one of these platforms that their face will run into. Their knee on the other hand are much harder to deal with. You can easily get surrounded by the leech monsters at the bottom of the room if you're down here. Menace can easily stomp on you and deal massive damage to you this way as well. Even though I came back a little extra prepared, I still got my ass handed to me. No! No! Oh my god. No! Oh my god! So I decided to lock in on one of my attempts. Oh my god, there we go. Oh. Oh my god. After killing Menace, all of the dominated souls that Dimitri had contained inside of him start to rush to Soma while getting jump scared by some images of him, Menace, and finally Mina. Soma is able to withstand all the souls flying into him, and Genya comes over and tells him that the castle's going to collapse and they both have to get out of there. Both Soma and Genya get out, and it cuts to them being outside next to the cliff seeing the castle falling apart. Ah, man, that's such a classic way to end off a Castlevania game. Genya says it's finally over, but Soma asks Genya what does it mean to be the Dark Lord. Genya tells that Celia isn't wrong about what she said and it means to be the opposite entity of God. Then Soma tells him that there will be a need for a Dark Lord and it's all because he got out of line for it. Genya tells him that he isn't wrong about that, and he tells Soma that he has no reason to be the next Dark Lord. Soma tells him that all of this wouldn't have happened if it weren't for him, and Genya tells him that he's only human after all. Genya then asks Soma if he wants to be the next Dark Lord, and Soma of course says he doesn't. Then we see the cast of everyone off to the side cheering Soma on, then Mina comes out of the crowd. Soma runs up to Mina, and Mina pulls a fast one on him by fake crying. Then everybody makes fun of the two that they're lovebirds, and everyone has a final laugh about it. Then the camera pans over to Genya to hint about a Dark Lord rising is going to happen even if it's not Soma, potentially giving us a clue that a sequel was going to happen, but unfortunately is never going to happen knowing what happened to the series, unfortunately. Then the screen fades to black. So, can you beat Dawn of Sorrow with just using curry? The answer is yes. You can get the normal, bad, and true ending to this game. Would I recommend this to anyone to try? I think I would only recommend this to people if they're looking for a really hard challenge to do in this game. The thing that kinda sucked for the most part were the enemies and bosses that float off the ground. And of course the amount of grinding that I had to do just to get past some of the bosses. I'm not sure what game to do next, to be honest. I think I might give Castlevania a rest since I did do Area of Sorrow last year. If you made it this far, I just want to say you're actually amazing for staying this long. Some of you don't understand how many people have short attention spans now these days for long videos like this. Editing these videos is such a pain, but thank you again for staying all the way to the end. I'll see you all in the next video. Goodbye.